Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, being recorded here at WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative radio station, 91.3 FM, coming out of Buff State, Buffalo State University. We are so grateful to Buff State, to WBNY, to our producer, the wonderful Greg Harvey. Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome. Glad to be here. I like to be called wonderful. That's good.
Well, we're so grateful because in spite of, a travel advisory, we're very obedient. I know I walked here anyway, but I was able to do that. We're not all able to do that. But this is an important show, and we're glad and grateful to do it. I also want to give a shout out to our alternate studio and our great other producer, Richard Wicca, who runs Think Twice Radio in the Home of the Future, where we also do some of our producing of shows. So we're very grateful. The Western New York Peace Center is very grateful. And when I think of gratitude, I think about our indigenous friends and BIPOC friends, and actually so many people who are oppressed and victimized, really, who in spite of all kinds of hardships are still full of gratitude. So I think about the fact that we are on stolen Seneca, or as they call themselves, Anondawaka land, that, the Anondawaka or Seneca being one of the nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. And they start, in spite of all the hardships that they've had, every gathering that they do, they started off with a sharing of gratitude, of thankfulness for the people who made the gathering possible, thankfulness to Mother Earth, thankfulness for the water, the living water that makes life itself possible, thankfulness for all the wonderful plants and animals that give us so much in every way, physically and emotionally, spiritually, so much to learn and love in all of our animals and plants, and trees especially, giving us the very air we breathe, without which, again, no life itself. So we've got all of that, and then there's the whole sky world and all the brother, sun, grandmother, moon. So they recognize all of that, and then they recognize the Creator and the love that animates it all. And so, as you know, our formerly enslaved, our black kings and queens, brothers and sisters, will say Ashe. The Haudenosaunee say Nyahweh, which means glory to the Creator, or isn't the Creator wonderful? Thank you to the Creator, something like that. And then the people say Nyo. So Nyahweh.
Nyo.
Thank you all, and thank you for this show. This is an important show, and we're very grateful to be here. We're calling it Buff State and Melting Ice. So right now, it's out there blowing. There's ice been formed. Now there's all kinds of snow on top of it, but we're talking about the ice that is crushing people. We rather crush ice, or at least I like the image of melt ice myself, just because in this particular case, melt their hearts, make them realize and stop doing these heinous criminal activities that are being permitted under the form of the government. So we have two wonderful guests with us today. So I'm going to say, as we go around, first, here's Matthew Hogan. Matthew is a grad student here at Buff State who organized some activities here and is still organizing. We're so happy to have you here, Matthew.
Thank you, Vicki. It was my first semester last semester, and it immediately became a pretty intense one for me. On account of being an English education grad student, I was given a placement at a school, local school, the Grover Cleveland School, or IPREP, and really immediately ICE had made their presence known at the school and at Lafayette as well, where some of my classmates were placed. And empathetic classmate that was down for the cause, my good friend, and I and our professor for this field experience class were lamenting after we shared that some of our students had either been threatened or were made to self-deport. And so on account of that, we set up a protest called Good Neighbor Gathering on December 4th. and it was a demonstration and protest, and I put my writing ability to great use, I think. On the coldest day of the year, I delivered what I think became a 50-minute speech there. So that was similarly to today, very cold, blizzardy day, but
Right.
The fires of our rage kept us warm. So thank you.
Oh, please. No, we're so grateful for the activity the work that you've done and that you continue to do. Thank you, Matthew, and thank you for coming here today on such a day. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. And, of course, I did just introduce Greg Harvey, the illustrious Greg Harvey, who is, anyway, I won't get into other things, but I will say we love the Bills. Go Bills.
Absolutely.
We never give up. It's just everything in its proper time. And what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So
See you in 2027.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
it's coming. It's coming. So anyway, thank you, Greg, for making this show possible.
You're very welcome.
And last but not least, friend of the show, Jay. Jay, we're so glad that you're here. Jay is a community activist and been very active about rapid response, which is just so needed, as we're just hearing from Matthew. And as if you're paying attention, you should be seeing it's happening all around the country. It is happening right here in our very own Buffalo and surrounding areas. So, Jay, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Vicki, and glad to be doing this and talking about these really important topics. So, yeah.
Yep, they're really important. And if anybody doesn't think they're affected, I have think again, So anyway, so let us go with our first thing that we like to do is when we think about, Buff State and melting ice, our topic of today, and what are the values that you think of as being important in that, Matthew?
Well, one thing that I emphasized over the course of my speech that I made on the 4th was how fundamental I think education and just the spreading of information, which is fundamentally an educational pursuit, is to the dismantling of long-standing federally suggested ideas about immigrants, immigrant communities, migrants, and even the simple idea that somebody's life's value is somewhat connected to their legal status in the country. Those are ideas that are disarmed, I think, with education. And so to be showing our efforts at an educational institution, whether here on the radio today or when launching a protest last semester and also next one, obviously, it strikes me that information is our only way out of this, and we're at an interesting point in history where social media can both be illuminating and expose the realities, the violent video evidence of these realities, at the same time possibly as sticking people into echo chambers from which they may never return. And so one of the most important priorities I have, I think, is not giving up on people who seem even to be on the fence, which, it's unfortunate when they are, but we can only win by converting people and opening their eyes to our ideas, I think, and rather to the reality of our ideas.
Well, I think all your points are so important. Certainly education, information, very, very important values, and not giving up on anybody and just plain not giving up is another thing. Thank you.
And we're invested in the future here at an educational
future.
institution, so that makes sense to be speaking here about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Greg, do you want to offer a value or two?
I hate to sound like a wimp, but Matthew, you said it all right there.
Yeah.
So, and Jay, what would you say for values?
Yeah, values in regards to what we're doing here and talking about here.
Yes.
I would say just center Black and brown people. So what I mean by that is just to my white friends, we need you to listen and listen militantly, right? We We don't need more white saviors.
Right.
White folks got us in this mess, and so let's try something different.
Right.
So that's like the main thing I will say. I think it takes a lot of organizing, talking, education. Education is a big part because a lot of people say these are unprecedented times, and I think that's not true. History rhymes, and it's a disservice to brown and black people to say this is unprecedented. It's been happening. Mm-hmm. It just feels unprecedented because it's starting to affect white people.
Right.
One thing I've heard told.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, here, I want to share a couple of values. So we're going to use the talking circle format anyway,
Gotcha.
So we're going around. But I just want to say truth and love, which really, I do say it every time. Not every time, but most times I will say it. And I say it because, first, truth, that has to do with education and information. The truth of the matter, right? The truth of the matter is that people are being taken willy-nilly, has nothing to do with their being the lowest of the low or criminal element or anything like that. Those are just plain lies that are being fed to us. We just had a SUNY professor taken and who's been incarcerated, and they're going to deport him over nothing. His only crime was taking a wrong turn at the Peace Bridge when he didn't mean to. And they have nothing else on him, and they don't pretend to have something else on him. Ridiculous. So truth and then love. We love each other. So, and we love our black and brown brothers and sisters, and we are all in this together. And yes, you're right. People, when it's starting, first of all, there are people who don't think it affects them, they're already overwhelmed with their life and the snowstorms or the whatever else they're overwhelmed with. Or maybe, there's every range of the feelings. But if we love each other, and if we realize that we're all connected, because we are all connected, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, and that's what we know. The Martin Niemöller quote. So they're taking the people they think are the easiest to take first, and what's happened, the rule of law is trash. People are lying all over the place, and there is no rule of law. It is wanton. Oh, and I need to mention this. It is about, we need to stop stop government-sponsored violence. Government-sponsored violence. It's not okay just because the people with the perpetrators with all their weapons and their illegal acts are paid by the government. So I just wanted to say that. So, but let us turn it back to you, Matthew, because we're going to go around on first about Buff State and talk about, as you started to, about that rally that you put together. And I know, Jay, you were on hand for that. I wished I had been, but anyway. So, please.
Yeah, so December 4th, there was a lot of excitement leading up to that day for me personally, because I knew that I wanted to deliver some kind of lawn and dramatic articulation. And funnily enough, I was really concerned, too, about making sure we follow campus rules and suggestions. And so, hilariously, I opted for a non-electric metal megaphone purchased overpricedly from a business in Pennsylvania, so as to, because apparently, electronically amplified audio wasn't quite allowed on campus.
Oh.
As it turned out, the event ended up taking place on the sidewalk across from the AKG, and so the electric megaphone would have been fine. Nonetheless, because it wasn't as strong, it compelled me to shout so much more loudly through the cold and the wind. I held it with fingerless gloves through the wind chill. Ooh. And honestly, all of those factors just made me feel all the stronger as I continued the delivery. And where at first I was a little bit worried that on what felt like the coldest day, what was definitely the coldest day of the semester, I might be holding my peers hostage through the speech. It actually turned out the crowd was growing, and having somebody there shouting continuously and then breaking into chants really helped to build excitement and build our numbers as well. To see it grow from like 10 people on the steps to it felt like 40 on the video that we were lucky the school newspaper took. Thank you, Soul, for taking that video. Be happy to link anyone to that. The Adam Bojack and a couple of DSA reps were in attendance there too, and so to have outside groups supporting was really excellent. And Jay helped connect us with people in local community defense organizations, and we were able to produce literature, pamphlets showing local organizations like Bird, Bika Buffalo, Lola, Our City Action, which is a great and very active protest organizing group here too. So several hundred copies of those in black and white were dispersed, and I still see them. I saw some hanging around here when I came back on campus today. I was impressed with my Staples resolve over on the board in the student union, because the posters are still up. And when I went to make the speech, I really wanted it to be all-encompassing. I wanted to also have my face and name on it, because I think there's a kind of push from the current federal administration to criminalize protest and discourage any kind of anti-authoritarian measures that people may want to take. And so because there are so many more of us than there are of them, I think the more confidently more of us who are willing and who are feel safe leveraging the privileges they may have to put their faces or names on it, the stronger our movement can become. So I personally was really excited to try and do that for people I know I do have the privilege to leverage. And I think part of good allyship, in addition to listening and militantly listening, is being able to make your presence known, have your name and face on it, and that kind of behavior and doing so with pride can sway people who may be like you, but maybe having reservations or afraid to show up and show out and maybe even contribute their own word to the conversation. So
Right.
that was a really big day for me.
Yeah, it sounds wonderful. I'm so sorry to have missed it. And Jay, what would you were there on hand, and thank you for all you did, the both of you, to make that such a wonderful event. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was mostly Matthew and like Maya and like the rest of the crew. So, but yeah, it was good.
It's always collaborating is important.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Absolutely. I think what I really appreciated about that demonstration is that it educated folks. Even while I was attending, I was like learning more about like some of the like the ways we like funnel money into these like private prison corporations and such. And so it was good because I believe that like sometimes these big demonstrations actually serve to declaw movements and like people. And what I mean by that is that you get a bunch of angry people together. And they attend, they get their like frustrations out for like those couple hours, and then they just check that box and they're like, I did my part. And the work does not stop there, folks.
Yeah, absolutely not.
And so, I am trying to encourage people that if you're attending demonstrations or putting together demonstrations, there is this like conversion that is happening of like, okay, we have angry people, we have people coming out and like showing their support. How can we convert that into action? And this demonstration did a really good job of like it converted those eyeballs, that attention, into education, and from there someone can do something thereon. So it was really good in that respect.
So many good things about it, and so many ways of working for the change we need for free America. I'm going to say, first of all, we just had all of our issues are connected. We know that. All of us are connected. We know that. That's why we all suffer when things are going wrong in these kinds of ways, the way they are, and the way that, of course, the people who have been, BIPOC people, Black, Indigenous, and people of color who have traditionally, and trans people. There are other people, different groups that have been victimized, and then it just goes on from there. So I want to say, some of this, it seems new because the threat has become so pervasive, just like Nazi Germany. And the Martin Niemöller quote I was referring to was the one he says, well, first they came from the trade unionists and I didn't do anything because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for socialists. I didn't do anything because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the, and you just name some more names. And then when they came for me, there was no one there to say anything or do anything. Well, we are not going to be in that position because people are working hard now. And I want to say first, we had, one of the things, there's so many parts that are needed. But, for example, we just kicked off our Stop Government-Sponsored Violence campaign, and also called Stop U.S. Military Aggression, because part of the impetus was about Venezuela and the total illegal acts, and, of course, all our other war crimes aplenty, and military aggression, which has been very normal. As Reverend Dr. King, here we are on Reverend Dr. King's day, he said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, and the bombs over there are exploding over here because it also is depriving us of the resources we need, and instead spending all those resources on bucking up the war profiteers and all their bombing the bombs so that you can buy some more bombs. It's the insanity of it. So anyway, on Saturday, we had over 200 people out there. They call it dozens in the news. They always say dozens. It was many dozens because it was over 200. We had people counted, and also there was churn because it was very, very cold. But that shows a level of commitment. I also want to mention a book I'm reading, this wonderful book by Erica Chenoweth called Civil Resistance. And it's really about when is a civil resistance campaign effective? When does it get where it wants to go in terms of stopping authoritarian regimes, et cetera? And it's just very informative. But I'm going to say one of the things is diversity of tactics, right? So that you don't know that it's always, I think getting people out on the streets is an important part. It's only one part. Because I do think that we're going to have to mass mobilize in the end, because we've already seen this is, history. Well, history rhymes, history repeats itself. When somebody shows who they are, believe them. We know who this is at the helm, and we know what the cronies and hench people around him are, what they're doing. Now, can their hearts be changed? Maybe they can. Maybe they can't. You want to read that book. You'll really enjoy it. It's very good. One of the things they say is about a nonviolence campaign is it's not about changing hearts and minds, although I wouldn't necessarily say that's completely not, that I think that is part of it. But it's also part of it is just convincing people where their interest lies or how things are going to go down. Is another piece of it. But anyway, so let us talk a little bit about how things in the university can happen to that will also include other aspects of the community. And I want to mention that there is going to be a protest. Back to all our issues are connected. So one of the things we're talking especially about is about ICE and all of their wrong acts. But where there's just as many wrong acts just massive killing and disrespect of the rule of law, of international law, is in Palestine. So we're going to have a Buffalo March in solidarity with Palestine on February 7th, and that is we're going to start at Bidwell and Elmwood on that Saturday the 7th at 1:30, and then we're going to walk past the museum. What's going on with the museums in Palestine? Oh, they're all demolished. Oh, then what about their schools? All demolished, So when we go around and see the important spots that we as a community enjoy, it just is a reminder of the injustices going on elsewhere. So anyway, sorry for just going on and on there, but I just wanted to say, so what sort of, let's see, what are you envisioning next for the university? Let's start with that maybe.
Yes, so Jay and myself and a couple of others are invested in development of recognition of local political power And so getting younger people invested in the idea and the belief and faith that if they campaign aggressively enough and elect local candidates, whether it be assembly or mayorship, that that difference can actually be made at a local level. And all across the country, we are kind of seeing the trend that whether it's states like Minnesota or individual cities, sanctuary cities, doing their best to fight federal influence and federal racism and imperialism. I mean, let's not forget the interconnectedness between the idea that Jay spoke earlier about how the times are not unprecedented, and they just may feel that way for white people in particular, being exposed to them on social media and their veracity for the first time. Many people have called ICE the Gestapo, referencing, of course, Nazi Germany, and that's pretty contemporary history, all things considered. But I've heard it told, and I personally believe now, too, that what ICE is doing is more akin to that of the slave catcher, which is kind of the first reason that police were formed in the United States to begin with. And I say slave catcher in particular, not just because of the nature of the tactics and the kind of chase that is so relentlessly and endlessly given, but also because many of those that become detained are made to participate in forced labor or underpaid labor for corporations that are essentially endlessly, mercilessly extracting wealth in the most aggressive means and from any corner they can on the planet. These are the companies that are involved with corporations and logos that we see every day, everywhere we go. So I think because the project continues to be profit extraction so mercilessly and relentlessly, I find connectedness between that and the prospect of American imperialism continuing, whether through we know there's massive natural gas reserves under Gaza and Rafah in Palestine. And of course, we all know that Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world. So many people kind of misconstrue what's going on there and get caught up strictly in the ideological battle. And while that is certainly an element and is used as a justification, there's a material reality of imperial projects and prospects that is always being pursued by this country. And so we have to fight that hand in hand and also maybe shoulder to shoulder and possibly with riot gear on. I mean, we'll see.
Well, I want to say you're very right about the fact that, follow the money.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is so foolhardy. So it's illegal, immoral, and so foolhardy because these people, they have children. Don't they care about climate catastrophe? Why are we getting more? Anyway,
we have a globalized world.
Yes.
We're supposed to anyway.
Exactly. So, Jay, what would you add?
We've said it on the show a couple times now, like stop government-sponsored violence, for instance, right?
Right.
And I think I would try to get people to think there's this implication that government-sponsored violence is kind of like this new normal, or it's not by design. And so I would ask people, is the system working as intended? Because this country was created from the blood of brown and black people,
right?
And for profit,
right?
And even in the colonial times, there were debts to try to settle the new world, and as part of settling the new world, they had to pay those debts off, and a lot of brown blood was spilt to pay off debts. And so, when I hear stop government-sponsored violence, it's challenging because I think the system, the government that we see today is working by design, and a lot of people are uncomfortable with this idea that I wonder, is America the bad guy here? Have we always been And
Well, yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm glad you're like waking up to that now, but yes, it's a lot of bad.
Well,
Kind
I
of one,
think
one
it's,
hemisphere south.
as you said, it's nothing new because, I mean, even, first of all, if we just go back again, this is recent history, but Reverend Dr. King, who said, that, the greatest purveyor of violence in the world is my own government.
Yeah.
The other thing is that violence is not limited to actual, beatings, killings, and everything like that. I want to make 2 points. One, in terms of ICE and the carceral system, and sometimes when I've talked about, when we're talking about government-sponsored violence, and I'll mention the military and ICE and the carceral system. And the carceral system and ICE, and first of all, ICE. Actually, Tim Kennedy was just saying last night, oh, no, I said money for Border Patrol, ICE, they're all working together.
DHS.
Luckily for us that maybe Sean has declared that Buffalo police will not be working with them, so that's good. But I just wanted to say that those systems are really the same system, and that the violence that is done to people is not only the violence of killing, abducting, beating, all the terrible, obvious physical violence that gets done, but the extreme oppression, the lying, the racism, just the way that the what can I say, the 1% has victimized really the population, and especially the Black, Brown, and Indigenous population, or any marginalized groups, groups that are more different. Yeah. So, as you sound like Jerome Wright, who also spoke on, made it to Saturday's event. He had just come back into town, and he always says, yes, it's working exactly as. Yeah. And it's the plantation to the penitentiary. That was very clear, too. Yeah. So the other thing, as you mentioned, back to the finances, is the stealing, and enslaving of people and taking all their labor for free. It was a massive, what do I want to call, boost or gigantic leap into being a powerful country by squeezing the life out of people and taking and stealing their labor. So this is everything has two handles, one by which it cannot be held. So as soon as you say something one way, then there's another way of sort of saying, well, yes, that, but wait, not quite. Yeah. There's a lot of work that we need to do of so many kinds.
Yeah, and so to that point, I think as like this like energy picks up and like people are like coming to this movement and like becoming more aware, I would ask you all if you're like new to this space to just kind of say to yourself, like, if this is working by design, like let's like use our imagination. Let's try to create new systems, new way of doing things. And so like things like mutual aid, right? Like
yes.
if you like understand like mutual aid like deeply, like it's a good alternative. I mean, like scalability is a different problem, but that's like another tangent because right. American imperialism works very hard to like snuff out like any examples of like alternatives. So right. we've not seen like these alternatives at scale, and that is also by design. Right. So yeah, let's explore new systems.
Yes, absolutely. We need to do things, and that's one of the things that give me hope. What's giving me hope right now, is that crisis equal to opportunity, so things are getting really shaken up so that we can then, change the way things are working, is one thing. And also the amount of people, how people are waking up and stepping up, so that, that gives me courage, too, that we see a lot of people, even though the threats are there, but people are waking up and standing up for each other. Oh, and I just wanted to say about rapid response. So that's another big, huge thing. And I know, there's a lot going on there. and there needs to be a lot more. So intensive canvassing, is getting organized. I think I can mention Buffalo Rapid Response Network. People can find that. And also Bird.
Yes.
You can actually, report sightings of whether it be ICE or Border Patrol or whatever fancy name, Homeland Security, any of them, or you can report that into Bird. It's Buffalo Immigrant and Refugee Defense, right? So let's go around again on. Maybe I don't know if you want to respond to this. Tomorrow is National Women's March declared a day for a walkout, back to economics, right? So how do you get people's attention? One of boycott, divestment, and sanction is one way. Walking out is another way. Now, we're in a little bit of a different situation now with the travel advisory. I don't know. And also, I think that our gathering that we were going to have in the square, we're not going to do that. But we do encourage people to walk off at 2 o'clock if you're not already home already. But so more things that we can do that will help. Go ahead, Matthew.
Yes, it's been interesting to observe the online space seeming to be so essential in the awakenings of peoples.
Yep.
I find it to be so endlessly emphasized. We need to emphasize how video, in particular, is even in the wake of AI-generated video, kind of throwing a wrench in our pursuit of truth here. Video has proven to be the most important form of evidence of abuses, and so, despite the fact that we have seen legal observers and protesters have vindication and revenge taken against them for the act of legally filming ICE, it's still so important if you feel safe enough and comfortable enough to try, because without videos of certain abuses, what we have happening sometimes is disproportionate levels of response to certain incidents. And what happened to Renee Nicole Good has 3 different angles, which create a complete picture of evidence. And I can't swear on the radio, but one particular angle shows a kind of a revenge-oriented motive on the part of Jonathan Ross, the shooter. But when there's not video, you have disproportionately low levels of responses to incidents. And so I think of the killing of Keith Porter Jr. in California, who was celebrating New Year, shooting a gun up in the air, and was killed by an off-duty ICE officer on New Year's, and did not see quite as much attention, even though it's just as reprehensible of an incident, I think, because it's New Year's. It's a celebratory, practically American act to shoot your gun in the air. It's not something that I've done, but it's not something anybody should be killed for or even threatened for. Similarly to trying to pull your car over and turn away while receiving 3 sets of contradictory instructions while some dude runs laps around your car, practically begging to be in the, for one instant perhaps, the path of the vehicle, but certainly not long enough of a path to warrant revenge killing. So try, if you can, get comfortable even from a distance. Use the amazing zoom that our cameras on our phones have, and try to film ICE when you see them, because anything can happen at any time, and we've seen this time and again, whether it's ICE or even police interacting with people in the streets. But ICE is coming in especially aggressively, and we know they are reckless. They progress through their training period with incredible speed and little care, and they act without accountability, completely unfettered in just about everything they do. I mean, you see their conduct on these videos. They're screaming and swearing at people. It really, not that professionalism is the greatest source of my concern, but even still, you can tell that this is kind of like a squad of federal goons. That's a lot of Proud Boys, for example. That gang has been relatively quiet, because they're getting paid $50,000 on sign up for the federal organization that is ICE. And remember, too, I want to emphasize before I close this comment, they've only been around since 2003. I was 6 years old then when the DHS was formed. And so the idea that this has been some kind of long-standing institution essential for the functioning of our country or our democracy is not necessarily true. But what it has enabled is deportation at a rate that was 10 times that of what came before. And I actually included data about that in my speech. It completely made an industry out of the deportation and detainment process. And, of course, the detainment centers themselves, basically private prisons by groups like Core Civic and Geo Group. In November of 2024, when Trump was elected, you saw the stocks for these two companies rise so exponentially. And so it kind of there's evidence on Google's stock viewer. You can just search up these companies, and you can see what appears to me like collusion. Something similar in scale to insider trading, which is another outrage that people in America are really tired of. And so I emphasize again: follow the money and arrive at evil. That's the way that this group of people that I call the ruling class. They've been so united ever since the 1980s with the advent of the Heritage Foundation, which wrote Project 2025. They've arrived at 2026 with their big, beautiful bill budget kicking in. And ICE's budget is something like doubling or tripling this year. So it's all the more important that we're on the radio, that we're in person, that we're on the social medias that are owned by technocrats anyway, and social media oligarchs. But we have to use every tool we can, including the ones that are owned by the ruling class too. Against them. So,
Right. You're so right.
Yeah. So can you give me the question again? Sorry.
Oh, well, the question is sort of more about how people can get involved. And I want you to talk, if you would, more about the rapid response. And then I actually want to add something about, yet another way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So getting involved, rapid response is a thing in Buffalo. It is happening. It's happening in like the Western New York region at large, and on the opposite end, ICE is happening in Buffalo, Western New York area. About 30 people plus have already been detained this month alone. And so, if you are like, wait, really? It's happening. And you also don't hear about it because it's not in a lot of like information outlets. But so another plug to Birdwatch Buffalo. Follow them on Instagram. You'll see like, kind of like weekly reports of this kind of stuff. And they do a really good job of like scrubbing like data and stuff like that, so that vulnerable folks aren't put in danger when they're like reporting this stuff out. They do a really good job at like centering Black and brown folks in all of this stuff. But yeah, so get involved by joining Bird or Burn, BRRN, and sign up for like the volunteer forums and get plugged in. So that's like one thing you can do locally. And to Matthew's point, like the digital space, waste all these like tech billionaires' dollars. Like there's so much money being spent to keep you in the middle, keep you feeling like, this is so complicated. I just am going to bow out because like I don't understand. A really good example is Venezuela, for instance. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, these like leftists, they're like, they want to free this dictator. And it's like, no, like, hold on. And so there are these like complicated situations that like media and like people try to put you in to make you feel like I don't know which side to pick, because like should a dictator be like running a country? Well, probably not, right? Should the U.S. intervene in a foreign country's like politics? Also, probably not.
At the whims of a despot.
Yeah. And so, like, you're put in a position, well, it's like, well, they shouldn't intervene, but if they don't, then a dictator. So, like, what are they going to do? We have to intervene. It's like, no. But, even in sharing that, like, it's complicated, it's nuanced, and people are just like, I don't understand, I'm not going to get involved. And this is, a lot of money is being spent to keep you in that position of just, like, too complicated and not going to touch on it.
Well, I want to say there's a false equivalency that's given all the time, and then plenty of lies and misinformation, disinformation, purposeful disinformation that is is perpetrated by the media very, very often, just because it suits their view. The false equivalencies is ridiculous. Illegal. There is a rule of law. There are international laws that made that all of that happened totally illegal. It was, and the supremacy clause, which is Article 6, paragraph 2, section 2. The supremacy clause that says that all of our international agreements and treaties are the supreme law of the land of equal force with the Constitution. So it's just flagrant. There's flagrant flaunting of the law, for one thing. But also that people are made to feel it's complicated when it's not that complicated. We have our principles. We can use our principles to guide us. Those are the principles, well, just what we said: truth, love, education, information, mutual aid. You know, a truth being a big one when there's blatant lying going on. We know that. It's obvious. And misinformation. So I think rapid response is really important. The thing is, they act so rapidly and so sneakily that and so illegally with their masks, and they're not wearing any ID or anything like that because they know what they're doing is wrong. That racism has been made legal by the Supreme Court order that said that people can use your appearance or your language or whatever to pick you up.
Yeah, racially profiling is legal for them.
So I just want to say the thing about rapid response is, and the Western New York Peace Center is totally on board with Byrne especially, and you know that we've been and hoping to be, you know, working hand in hand with Byrne on canvassing and things like that, is that we need to build build our networks, especially because, as you were saying, you know, we're so dependent on the social media and even the telephone and everything like that. Well, what happens when they pull the plug on all that, which they can do anytime, right? So we need to be ready with our in-person. That was so important that we got here today to be here together in person with, thanks to Greg, and thanks to you both, you know, to come in here, because that's how we're going to build our network, build our solidarity, build our knowledge by letting the people who are most heavily impacted and affected, who know the story, take the lead, tell us what's wanted, what isn't wanted, you know, and keep learning. You know, we're going to be learning, and we can create another world. Another world is possible. So now I think we're getting low on time. So I'm going to say, let us go around one more time with and I have a couple things I want to add to this too, about back to getting people connected. So, and involved.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes. Well,
just a minute or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
We thankfully there's a widespread recognition prevailing that a lot of these issues, whether anti-imperial, anti-war, pro-peace, anti-discrimination, are all interconnected, and we have an emerging intersectional lens here. Even at a local scale, groups in Buffalo are linking to each other and supporting one another, and so divided we fall. You know, this has been known to be the playbook of the ruling class in empires for a long time, not just in this country, but I mean that goes back to the Roman Empire or whatever came before that too.
Right.
So acknowledge the similarity between you and a neighbor, and the similar trends between issues across the world and then here at home, because the imperial boomerang does eventually come back, and so. You know, ISIS forces reportedly trained by the IDF, and our protesters are being subject to chemical weapons and stuff, fireworks, anti-riots. Check that out live in Minneapolis if you're willing. It's pretty incredible to behold, and then recognize that you are not powerless. You can do something with words, actions, art, on the street, or just by being willing to have a conversation with friends or family.
Yes.
I just wanted to say in closing, we talk about that kidnapping of Maduro like it was such a clean operation, but they barely got away with it, and they killed over 100 people, including 30 Cubans that were loyally defending Venezuela. And they have been pretty heroic in contemporary world history, continuing to stand even after the fall of the Soviet Union. They send doctors all over the world, so I'm really thankful for them. I wanted to honor their fallen, and yes, hopefully we won't stand to see continued normalization of violence against Black and brown people across the world much longer. So
absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes, so important. So much wonderful work being done by the Cuban, especially the medical people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What you can do is, like the time for politeness is over. And what I mean by that is just like, if there are people like spewing this like hate rhetoric or just like, just kind of like any support in any way about this stuff, like don't think, oh, I should be quiet to not ruffle feathers. You are giving them space to like go on and like get larger and larger and more powerful by just being like quiet and like staying just like as this kind of like compliant little obedient thing. Don't do that. And inaction is action, unfortunately. Yes. Yep. It is.
Silence is complicity.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes, it is complicity, and so stop it.
Right.
And so just like sign up for like Bird or Buffalo Rapid Response, and just have these conversations with your friends and family. I know it's awkward, but everybody's thinking the same thing, and like truthfully, they are. Like I like a friend is like talks about like this Venezuela stuff, and they're like, "Man, can you believe what happened?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, like let's talk about it." And I like stayed up like for many hours into the night, like talking to this friend about this stuff, and like they walked away more informed after the fact, and me as well. And so people are open and talking. I know it's awkward, but just do it. It saves lives. So,
It's so important.
We can't face this in isolation. That's what I think. And we're meant to. They want us to, but we can't.
No, we need to be that solidarity is where it's at, caring for each other. Back to truth and love. I feel like a broken record. And especially today, on the day we're recognizing for Reverend Dr. King's birthday, I need to mention, Reverend Dr. King, he told us, and as you say, this is as old as time, of people, a few people, with the power and the money and the influence who are oppressing large numbers of people. This is not a new game plan, but there are other ways of doing it, and we know what they are, and they haven't gotten to scale, as you say, but but when they are there, we know they're better. It's in our families, it's in a healthy community, that communal music being a symptom of it, a big symptom of it, that community spirit, putting the community first. And it doesn't mean that the individual always pays. The individual actually benefits because I reclaimed my teenage nickname of Victory to say over and over again that the real victory, everybody wins. So these people who think they're winning or getting the $50,000 benefit by joining ICE, they're not winning. Their internal soul, their mental health, their family, their everything. And the world that is being ushered in with increased violence of all kinds, about where people live, whether they have whether they're going to freeze to death,
starvation,
any of it, starvation, here, there, or anywhere. So there's so much to do, and I love what you said too about talking with people, because talking with your family and friends, that is not a small thing. Talking with people in the grocery line, talk with people. And have that courage. And there's a way of doing it. When you're doing it in truth and love, it doesn't have to get nasty. It doesn't have to even be an argument. Sometimes it is time to set it aside. Oh, but I'm sorry, I'm getting off the track. I did want to say the Western New York Peace Center, as we're trying to, it's always been truth. It's always been peace through justice at home and abroad is our what we're working on, along with so many wonderful allies, including Buffalo United Coalition and Bird and Burn and, and Buff State Students for Peace or whatever else you're going to have here.
Yes.
But I just want to say that please walk out tomorrow at 2:00 if you're in a class or in at work. At your work, and also that we are going to have a short teach-in at the Western New York Peace Center on Thursday, the 22nd at 10:30. Very brief. It'll be shared learning. Just a little update on. Well, for the first visit is going to be Langworthy, so we'll be there 10:30. We'll at 11:00 we'll carpool up to Langworthy's former office, which he has vacated because he doesn't want to hear apparently from his constituents. But we're going to go there anyway and just be there for an hour from 11:30 to 12:30, and then we're doing something similar to the Larkin Building for Tim Kennedy, and who has asked for more money for Border Patrol. Border Patrol. He said it's not ICE, it's Border Patrol that I'm asking for more money. Oh, okay. So that's very different. No, that's not very different. However, so then we'll do that. I also want to draw people's attention to Monday the 26th at 7 p.m. at Canisius, where we'll have an excellent Latin American Solidarity Committee coffee house that will have Jim Anderson talk about Peace Action New York State, which is the Western New York Peace Center is a Peace Action chapter. Anyway, there is so much to do. I can't say how grateful I am to both of you. You have just done a magnificent job, both of you. I include getting here today, but I know that's a minor, and I know Jay just got back. I think I can say that from being out of town, yes?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So it's just a lot on people, and certainly I know, Matthew, you've been sick, I've been sick, and the Bills just lost. So there's all these things against us and the travel advisory, but still we're doing it, and that is what we're doing. So I'm so grateful for all your work all the time, for all your kindness, collaboration, and efforts of all kinds here, WBNY, and the two of you and the groups you work with, the people you work with. We are all in this together. So just thank you.
Onward to victory.
Thank you.
Yeah, onward to victory.
Onward to all of our real victory that we're going to get it. So I just want to say this is Talking Peace, and together we've been talking peace in truth and love.